Norris on with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
Maxime, we are one preseason game away, baby. One
Let's go.
last preseason game before the games actually matter. Before the shit we're saying into this microphone has like some reason to be said. The idea that we've done as many episodes during this offseason is incredible, but the offseason is about to be over, man. So reason to celebrate. How does this podcast find you?
Very excited. Maybe the most excited I've been in a few years. I feel like we've got a lot of roster turnover, which we're at the dawn of a new, it's the land of opportunity, right? There's nothing but sunshine and roses in our future because I don't know anything about what's going to happen yet.
For sure. I thought the last months, I didn't think you're going to say as happy as I've been the last few years. That's excellent. That makes me excited as well. Just let the record reflect that Maxime has had a son in the last like 2 years. And this preseason is getting him far more fired up than anything apparently that's happened as a father, which is great, dude. Here, this story will make you feel better. It fits in the same category. I went to the Sacramento preseason game with the family. Last Friday, had a work thing that went well. Fuck it. We decided to buy some preseason games and off we went. Nice. And I walk into Chase Center holding my little girl's hand. And I can tell you that I was just so fucking happy to be back in NBA basketball. And so I say to no one in particular, I love this. And my daughter looks up and makes very meaningful eye contact and goes, Daddy, I love you too. And I was like, oh my God. I was like fucking thinking about the Warriors, dude. It made me look like just a goddamn asshole. So, I feel you, man. It is what it is.
Right. I evidently completely forgot that I had a son, was just like, this is the best thing ever. And he can't speak yet, but I'm sure if he would have come in here and been like, Daddy, what about me?
And you would have been like, shut up. It's preseason excitement time.
That's right.
Don't you worry about what you have to say. I'll finish that story. So the Warriors win that game. In fact, they're undefeated right in the preseason. And it was kind of close towards the end in a game that nobody gave one fuck about for very obvious reasons. It's a preseason game. But my daughter's playing hoop now. And so in the past, where she wouldn't necessarily care, and to be fair, I didn't let her bring her Kindle or use any of our phones or use any screens. So it wasn't that she was immediately drawn to the game. It's that she had nothing else to give a shit about. And so in the final 5 minutes, she really cared. And, she's screaming defense, that whole thing. And just to make up for the shitty father I was to begin the evening, after that, I couldn't have been more excited as she's starting to get involved. So she and I are the only two people screaming fucking defense. And my wife, who has gone to this game with the understanding we'll be going to the store and getting Valkyrie's gear. That's the only reason she's on board. She's like, fine, dude. Like, we'll get through these first 3 quarters where we're going. With about 4 or 5 minutes left, right when my daughter gets involved, my wife starts making it very clear, okay, time to go, dude. It's Valkyrie's time. What the hell are we doing? Maxime, I just completely ignored her. I just kept looking at Kylie like, oh yeah, defense. It made the ferry ride tough home. She was angry and it might not have been worth it. But I did have some very solid daddy-daughter time during the game. So, I wasn't an asshole the whole way through.
Sounds like you might have needed to bring some screens for your wife, not for your daughter.
What I brought her is a bunch of pictures of fucking Valkyrie sweatshirts that we ultimately did not buy. But let's move forward, big man. We got things to discuss here. So let's start with our glass half full. You know this segment. We look back at recent Warriors basketball, give us something you like and something you don't. We have real basketball. There have been preseason games. You start us off, man. Something you like or don't?
Well, to carry this theme forward of me being more excited than I've been recently, part of the thing that I loved the most about sort of the dominance of the 2015 to 2019 era of the Warriors was like nobody could outgun us. And it feels like we got a little bit of that again here.
Sure.
Steve Kerr is talking about how we're going to maybe lead the league in 3-point attempts this year. And we might actually lead the league in 3-point makes. Buddy Hield, Lindy Waters coming out of nowhere. Obviously, we still got Steph. It's sort of ironic that we lose Clay to the Mavericks and yet somehow still might be a deeper 3-point shooting team than last year. So just from the pure joy of watching basketball at where the floor is really highly spaced out and you got a bunch of shooters running all over the place, especially with the motion offense that not only Kerr is great at bringing to the table, but that Steph is also the biggest proponent of, there's the chance that these guys are all going to shine and it's going to be a really fun year to watch Warriors games.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Anything you don't?
I'm not the biggest, personally, I'm not the biggest fan. of hearing all of the Moody conversation, and maybe we'll get into a little bit more, but I'm starting to feel really bad for the guy. And he had a conversation with, I don't know, somebody from The Athletic, I think, talking about, yeah, I'm not going to change who I am and start making more noise, even though I've been told that if I were, squeaky wheel gets the grease situation, that's not who I am. That changes my fundamentals, and that's a slippery slope into essentially not being able to be the type of person and basketball player that I want to be. But I like this guy's game. He feels like a good all-around player. Seafair's like, look, he's a rotation player, but like our big problem is a great opportunity. It's that we got a bunch of guys. We're really deep. But I'm concerned. It feels like the type of thing that can linger into the season. I know he's not probably going to be a starter, but it is nonetheless something that is concerning as a storyline for me going forward that could start to fracture things in the locker room, when there's a lot of new guys.
They've been labeling their depth as one of those good problems to have. Always a phrase I always thought was weird. We'll see what happens. I read a rumor today that the Warriors and Moody were negotiating a possibility of a much larger deal in numbers in the mid-level exception range. Right. We'll see if it happens, but the idea that they're at least talking suggests that Moody might not be as frustrated as all of his fans are. That like all of us have been chomping at the bit. Like, where the fuck is this guy's minutes? If he's willing to talk about a longer contract, maybe he's less upset about it. All right. My glass half full and empty. Let's start with the empty. All right. I don't think this is a title team. Not right now. I don't watch them and think to myself, okay, we are in the title contention conversation immediately. I think we just have to throw that out there. I don't want to be too much of a homer. And one of the ways you can say that is, well, there's not defined roles. When I'm not even taking shots at the roster necessarily, but when you are talking about the elite of the elite, when you're trying to differentiate between the top 10 teams and the top 4 teams, sometimes it's continuity and roles. You know exactly who's playing when. We don't even know who our fucking starters are. So Are we right now in a position to really contend? Probably not. So empty, glass half full. All right. I have so many, Maxine. I have so many that we're going to go from least important to most important. Number 1, we're undefeated. Haven't fucking lost a game in the preseason, baby. Go. No one can touch us, dude. I think I saw somewhere on Reddit and I didn't have time to look it up, but the last 2 times we went undefeated in the preseason, we still got one more gate to get through here. But we won a championship. So all signs point to titles. Number 2, I like the obvious friendship between TJD and Pods. He broke his fucking nose. He broke his nose. And they took a picture arm in arm immediately afterwards. Maxime, love you. You're like family to me now. We've been doing this forever. You break my nose? Fuck you, dude. I'm not taking pictures with you. Like, I'm going to be hella pissy. There's going to be a whole period of like passive aggression. It's going to be a thing. It wasn't a thing for them in any way. 3, Lindy Waiters. I knew so little about his game. I spent the first 3 games calling him Waters. I'm sorry. I did it again. His name is Waters. Freaking me out. His name is Waters. And I've been calling him Waiters over and over and over. So much so that I even did it right now. But it is possible that Mike D is a hell of a talent evaluator and found another gem early preseason. We'll revisit this. But so far, so good. 3, I like how JK and Moody have looked. Now we're getting into things that matter, Maxime. If the Warriors are going to take a leap, it's going to start with names like Kuminga and Moses. Preseason, but what they needed to do during these games, they've done, which I like. Next thing, also important, I like their books. The Warriors haven't come out and said this. You've got to read people like Kawakami and some of the other guys who go into the numbers. But the Warriors were a luxury tax hell. They all their moves were really restricted because of how the tax works, and they went into the offseason with the goal of fixing that shit. Well, mission accomplished. I did a little research. Next year, their tax hit is 140, which puts them at 22nd in the league as far as roster money, and they owe exactly $0 in tax. What that means is they're flexible. They want to make a trade, they can. They want to bring in talent, they can. They now have the kind of open opportunity that they wanted to get during the offseason. So mission accomplished. Finally, most importantly. Okay, so not a title contending roster. I said that, and I believe it. But biggest glass half full, Maxime. But there's a number of maybe possibilities that can suddenly make them contenders. I'll give you some examples. Maybe JK is ready. right? Maybe Heald just was never given the chance to play a much larger role. Maybe Milton has been held back by injuries. Maybe Wiggins is back to two-way Wigs. Maybe Pods and TJD are the people who the front office say they are. Now, those maybes aren't probabilities, right? I'm not betting a mortgage on them, but I'm not telling you I think Loon is going to hit 4 3-pointers a game, or maybe Draymond's going to be our leading scorer. I'm giving you maybes that could happen. And if all of those maybes do happen, contention. I changed what I said. If literally, I mean, a lot of things, Maxime, and like I broke down, I wouldn't bet on them. But can I see a path? Can I look at this? Can I see the stone in the marble? Yes. Yes, I can. And there's not a lot of other upsides I really want from a preseason. So let's go, man. I'll take it.
Wow. I mean, first of all, you heard it here first, guys. It sounds like Bram is picking the Warriors to win the 2025 NBA title. That's very exciting.
Yeah. Bet your house.
No, but I mean, you bring up a really good point. I think Wiggins is maybe one of the biggest X factors in the league right now, just because, as we all know, he was so instrumental to the 2022 title. The guy clearly has both the talent and now what we've seen is the capacity to be that second leading scorer on our team overall. He's had some really terrible things happen to him in his life quite recently, but some of those things are very final. The passing of his father means that he can put that behind him.
Sure.
And maybe move forward and play ball. So if we're attributing a lot of his strange behavior on and also not on the court over the past 2 years, that's something to be excited for. Also, one more thing, Bram, you reminded me, speaking of stats that indicate that the Warriors are going to win a title, being undefeated in the preseason, I would need to look that up too, but also Kendrick Lamar announced a new album. So far, we have only won titles when Kendrick Lamar releases an album and nobody else has. So a lot of reasons for optimism. I might be putting my mortgage into that bet.
Book it. I'll give you one more. Glass half full. Less angst. It's just less angsty.
Yes.
It's preseason. So, I mean, we'll see how this feels 15 games in. But there's not all the weird lingering pressure of the big three. There's not all the giant, this play makes me feel uncomfortable situation with Clay. I haven't watched Clay do that thing where he took his shoulders and rolled them on purpose because he was trying to get himself mentally back into a game, and it's been replaced by Heald and Melton and, this push of new energy that is really well welcomed. And so, I mean, I am looking forward to this season more than the birth of your son as well, man. So we share that thing.
A lot of ways, I'm with you. I think Boston is really scary. Everybody's very excited about Oklahoma City. This is not a guaranteed title team by any stretch of the imagination. So please allow me to caveat this when I then say there is something that feels a little bit like 2014, 2015, where we're looking at a team where it's all upside. There's a potential here for something great to happen. It's not totally realized yet. And we also have the benefit now of having multiple titles under our belt, including the 2022 title, which just feels like the cherry on top. There's nothing left to prove. Steph's legacy is cemented, and now we really get to have fun with it. So we get to have fun watching all the threes go in. We have a bunch of new storylines that we can watch with new players, Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton. We have young guys that we can get excited about. There's opportunities to talk about roster construction and who's going to play when, but none of it feels loaded or weighted with this expectation and need. Gosh, I'm even more excited than I am now. Shit.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a fun year. It might not be a title year. It's okay. It's not going to be an angsty year. Excellent. We've had enough of that. And so it's going to be fun with the possibility of maybe they raise their ultimate level. So we will be revisiting all those maybes as the season rolls forward. All right, to our golden questions. So Maxime, as you know, we have a mailbag. People write in, get us questions because I can't come up with very clever titles. I just call them golden questions. They come from Warrior fans, always deal with the Warriors, occasionally get personal. This one is more Warriors based. And here's the first. Who should start, Maxime? So we've all been talking about this. And I think it might have been Steve Kerr who sent the question. So appreciate you listening, Steve. You can call me next time. No problem. Up to you. However you want to play it. Here are the 3 starting lineups from our last 3 preseason games. And the preseason starting lineups have felt both like some testing, kind of seeing who works and who does what and where they're going. And then also the combination of, well, who needs a little rest here? And we're not going to give real minutes to people during the preseason. But in the game against Sacramento, here's your starters: Steph, GP2, Moody, Slow-Mo, and Draymond. Moody led all scorers with 23. Against Detroit, your starting lineup: Pods, Moody, Melton, Kuminga, TJD. Moody led all scorers with 14. Against LA, your starting five: Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, TJD, Dre. Moody led all scorers with 21. There's a pattern there, but we don't have to underline it. So Steph, GP2, Moody, Slow-Mo, Draymond, Pods, or I'm going to take out this middle one. This middle one doesn't have Steph because he didn't play in the game. Right. So Steph, GP2, Moody, Slow-Mo, Draymond, Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, TJD, Dre, or another one of your choosing. I'll take this one first. It's that last one. Yes. Steph, Wiggs, Kuminga, TJD, and Dre. What it is light on is established shooting. And for very obvious reasons, in 2024, you're going to need some three-pointers. And we got them coming off the bench. Hield's been shooting. Waters been shooting. Melton's been making the shot. Moody's been making the shot. But what a lot of this season is already resting on is Wiggins' return to relevance and Kuminga's jump. And so that's what I got to lean on, And when we say Kuminga's jump, one of the things we're hoping for is that weird kind of form he has works. The three-pointer starts hitting, and Wiggins is back to two-way Wiggs. If those happens, I like this. I like this lineup. It's length. I like them defensively. And assuming JK can shoot, we also have a little bit of spacing, so I'll take it. That's my pick.
I was agreeing with you when you gave me all the different lineups, but now that was Trace Jackson Davis as a part of that starting five. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a couple of concerns. You said the shooting one for sure. That's a concern. I would not be surprised to see D'Anthony Melton starting to push for the shooting guard spot. I don't know if that means Podziemski is coming off the bench, which would be sweet in its own right. I could see him being a fantastic point guard for that second unit. Just because the shooting is there, right? And it gives us a little bit more if Wiggins is slow to come up. But also having Draymond essentially as our five, first of all, that's a lot of wear and tear on an older body. He's also not the biggest dude, right? I'm sorry. I'm advocating for then having Draymond instead of Trace Jackson Davis at the five, right? And putting Podziemski into that starting lineup instead.
Oh, so you'd have Pods at the one, Steph at the two, Wiggs three.
Sure, but kind of flip them. It doesn't exactly matter, right? You just have two guards basically. And just have a slightly bigger five, right, instead of Draymond.
Yep. So you're taking TJD out and putting Pods in there.
Yes, exactly. Yes, precisely. Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a positional shift that happens at the same time, but it's probably going to be variable. And again, that's the beauty of the depth of this team. But that also speaks to the concern that you were bringing up earlier, that without predefined roles, if guys are kind of changing things up night to night, it could be problematic. But I don't see how we have. I mean, a lot of the teams that we're talking about. I mean, Giannis, right? Joel Embiid. Victor Wembanyama, right? The league has trended back towards big, and a small ball lineup is not exactly the way to win against a lot of those teams. And this is, again, I think we have a position of need. We talked about this before at the five. We're pretty small. And so that's I could see that getting flipped in.
This is a sexy question. I mean, I like the idea of starting five. It's a sexy question. It's why I ask it at bars. It's why I include it in this outline. But it's not one that matters. And it's at least with this team, it's not one that matters. So the popular thing to say to show people that basketball is it's not who starts, it's who finishes, right? When I say this, though, that's not what I'm talking about. With this team, if they're going to be successful, it's not going to be because of their closing lineup. We don't have a death lineup. It's not going to be because their starters are defined and this is how they go out and open up a first. It's because of their depth. And Steve Kerr's found some way to weaponize their depth. So, I mean, it's fun and I stick with my answer. But what happens, who ultimately starts, that's not going to dictate what goes down here. What ultimately is going to dictate our success is the development of the players we've been talking about all off season, and so we'll see how that plays out, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, there is something to be said for, again, with teams that are deep like this, that means that you can keep people from running their legs a bunch. You could see Steve Kerr do the hockey move where he switches out all five guys. And then you kind of can have a death lineup in that they're just more ready to run at the end of the games. You go a little bit small and just smoke teams out. But I agree with you overall. It's not about who starts and who finishes. This is a question of who develops.
If you played in the NBA, what would your mentality be? Would it matter to you that you were a starter? If they took it away from you, but you still closed games, but you were no longer a starter. Would you be mature enough to I close, and if normal people don't recognize that, fine? Or would it kind of bother you not to be a starter?
The key that you brought up here is that at one point I was a starter. I think there is an adrenaline rush from, being a part of the name roll call and when the lights are low and the fire's blaring or whatever it is, and hearing your music go off, coming out in the sweats. That is an adrenaline rush that you then come down from. I have friends that tour in bands, and they talk about it's intense to go on stage in front of huge crowds, and then they have to come down after each show. If you have that experience and then shift to being the warm-up act, which feels like kind of the equivalent thing, that's not the same rush. And I think I would be then kind of an adrenaline junkie missing it. I think it would be more problematic than I would like to admit. You know what I mean?
Fuck it. Do I know what you mean? What are you talking about? Do you know how fucking shallow I am? I mean, really what we're talking about is importance to the team or importance to the audience, right? So importance to the team, you're closing. It doesn't they know who you are, whether or not they turn off the lights and let you come out there to music, they know who you are. Important to the audience, when the last 5 minutes are being played in the game, you know what they don't do? Call timeout, turn down the lights, and announce the closers. Come on out, let's get fired up. Here's your fucking closing line. That does not happen. Does not happen in any way. Am I shallow enough to want the whole pomp and circumstance, the big flamethrowers off the fucking blackboard or the backboard and everybody recognizing me being a starter, me being able to casually mention to nobody who is listening, oh yeah, I happen to start for the Golden State Warriors. Weird. Right. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I'd like both. I'd like to be, presumably if I'm good enough to start, I'll probably find myself in the closing lineup too. If I had to choose, oh yeah, importance to the audience. Come on, man. I feel like anyone who's been listening to this show longer than 5 minutes, 100% knew that response. All right, to our second and our final golden question, although it's a multi-parter. What do you boys think of these trades? And they provide some trades, man. And so I have double-checked all of these through the trade machine. I know that the money works. Here is our first. This is aimed at getting Golden State a big man. In fact, all three of them are. Mm-hmm. In this trade, we are going after DeAndre Ayton. Quick stats. DeAndre played 55 games last year, 16.7 points per game, 11.1 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal. Wasn't quite the denominator Ayton, whatever the fuck that nickname was that he wanted to be, but okay year. Here's the suggested trade. Portland gets Andrew Wiggins, GP2, and a first-round pick next year. So when the first rounders are all valuable, when they convey for Golden State's an important thing. In fact, here, let's make it 2 years because I know next year is a little murky. But the idea is that a first rounder in the next few years, while Steph is still Steph at all capitals, is not going to be as valuable as a first rounder 3-4 years from now when we don't have that talent, right? So we give up Wiggins, GP2, in a less valuable first rounder. We get back Ayton. All right. We've got 3 people weighing in. We're not going to have Wes join us, but I texted him before we hop behind these mics to get the national perspective. So I have his take on these. We'll ramp up to him. Let's start with you. What do you think, man? Who says yes? Who says no to this?
I think Portland says yes, because I can't imagine Golden State running away from this any faster. I mean, I say no to this so hard, and the guy can't even figure out how to get to the arena for a game when there's some kind of snowstorm happening. I have no faith in his ability to show up and be anything other than a selfish player. I think we've seen enough from this guy to know that he doesn't sort of fit into the Warriors system. I'm very, very out on Ayton. I know that he is a talent. He's the first pick overall, but he hasn't proved that to be valuable. And at the same time, we're talking about consolidating salaries. We're talking about bringing in Ayton at whatever it is, $35 million for Wiggins's 25 plus GP2's, salary filler essentially. I much prefer to bet on Wiggins, and that leaves out Gary Payton II, who I think is a fantastic piece if he can stay healthy. He's one of the best single lockdown defenders in the league. It feels like a consolidation that makes us less flexible to bring in an asset that is a pariah within the league. I'm very out.
That's a hard take on fucking Ayton. Pariah within the league. Jesus.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Come on, he's in Portland right now. Is there any team that's tanking harder this year?
No, and he's had 2 terrible years. So I've got some hesitancy here, but it's not totally aimed at Aiden. I think that there is a new culture in the NBA where if we haven't really thought of you one way or the other, if you were a young promising player and then you've disappeared for a little while, the assumption is, oh, you're dog shit. You missed your window. We're out. We're hard out. Aiden is probably the poster child of that, right? And 55 games played. I mean, you'd like to see a much healthier version of this. But can I see his upside? Sure. In a year when he was universally shithoused, 16-11, and we desperately need a big man, or we could use a big man. I don't know if we desperately need one. And the asking price isn't terrible. I don't like giving up a first rounder. GP2 is beloved, but I'm not crying. And Wiggins, who knows if he makes his comeback, so I can see it. Do I immediately say yes to this? No. This is one of those trades that if we get to February and everything else is out there, no other superstars has come up, it looks like we're middling, we're good, but we're not really taking all these other pieces aren't fitting into place. And this trade's there. Yeah, you got my attention. Sleepless night. I'm not saying yes immediately. I'm not saying no. If I'm Portland, I do it. You get out of a shitburger contract. You get out of a guy who does not want to be there at all. You had a first rounder. GP2 going back there could be a little awkward, but I'm sure they could deal with it.
That's a good point. I forgot about that.
All right. Oof. To Wes, quote, I think this is a potential home run for the Blazers, who get off money in the short term, even though they take Wiggins for a year longer than Aiden. But the Warriors pick could be a pretty decent one. I also have no idea what the Blazers are doing, so they may ignore a good trade staring them in the face. As for the Warriors, I don't know how much Aiden really helps. This would be an aggressive move to revive someone's career, and Aiden hasn't exactly bought into team first concepts in either Phoenix or Portland. Adding his size would be nice, but I'd still bet that Kerr goes to Green at center in crunch time, or even Looney when he needs size that he trusts. I don't think it's worth the opportunity cost when adding in a valuable pick. Doesn't say anything about the pariah thing. There's no league-wide pariah in this text, but it's possible he just didn't have time to type. I mean, it is a long text.
I mean, he was clearly listening to me and just paraphrased exactly what I just said. So yeah, he didn't use the word pariah because then it would have been an obvious comp that he was just copying what I said.
Is that something you didn't say into this microphone or something? Because I didn't hear any of him actually repeated it, but we go to trade 2. Very similar. We're just adding a different player from Portland. So in this instance, Golden State gets back not only Aiden, but Robert Williams, Time Lord. You may remember Time Lord when we were playing Boston in the finals. He was the guy with the braids who murdered us until he got hurt. That's true for every team that's ever played Robert Williams. He is very effective when he's on the floor. Also, he's never on the floor. Last year, for example, of the 82 available, he played 6. And I think he may have missed some of the minutes during the 6. So, there's some health concerns. This trade, Portland gets Wiggins still. We're adding DeAnthony Melton as the addition. GP2 is still going. And then a more valuable first-round pick. This one would be coming after Steph is retired. The Warriors get back both Robert Williams and league-wide pariah DeAndre Ayton. My assumption is that you're out on this one as well?
Yeah, I am. And look, I just maybe give me an opportunity to hammer a little bit more home, right? I don't think that DeAndre Ayton, he's appealing because he's considered a center. He's only 6'10", so it's not like he's a huge guy anyways. And he doesn't do a lot of the things that we need out of the center position, right? I mean, he's like the super low free throw attempts per game, and yet he's a decent free throw shooter overall. So it's just he's not really willing to do the big bodying stuff down low. He seems to be more of like an interest in a 5-out kind of guy. And that's just not what we need. I know it's appealing when we're talking about looking for a big man, but this is just not the right guy to do it. So did I drive the point home enough? Did I define the word pariah for you, or do you need more?
Well, I don't think pariah means he doesn't fit, man. Pariah means he's hated league wide. You didn't say one word about him. You didn't say one word about him being hated league wide. If we're really digging in, no. Do I agree with that? I do not. Do I think that he fits in with their current style? No. Does he shoot 3-pointers and do constant movement? Of course not. Could he, in fact, fit in with a Steve Kerr system? Fuck yes. Aggressively yes. He's 26 years old, incredibly athletic, and is probably looking for an opportunity to revive his career. We took somebody like Wiggins, who was hated universally and probably could have been called a pariah, and became essentially a candidate for the finals MVP. So do I believe in his upside? If he came here, could we revive it? And can I see how he'd help? Of course, dude. Aggressively, yes. And the people who were giving up, Wiggins, GP2, I mean, Steph isn't included in this. It's the first rounder that's of real value. So Do I think for sure no on it? No, I don't. But like I said, I'd wait till February. This version of it, adding Robert Williams, no. He's an injury waiting to happen. And the draft pick we're giving up is coming at a time when we're desperately going to need it after Steph has left. The only people I'm giving up a draft pick in 3 years for are people whose salaries are enormous. It's a $30 million player, a guy who comes and makes us a title contender immediately. Right. Robert Williams is not one of those guys. And Wes agrees with both of us on this. Quote, I absolutely, in all caps, hate this for the Warriors. Instead of getting one unreliable center, you get two for a better pick. Multiple exclamation points in this, by the way. I think D'Anthony Melton is a better player than both Ayton and Williams at this point. And we haven't really given Melton his props, so we'll let Wes do that. All right, to our third, different player, different team, but same kind of idea. This one, we're going after Vucevic. So last year, Vooch for Chicago played 76 games, averaged 18 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, shot 39% from three, and 1 block per game. In the trade, the Warriors pull back Vooch. Chicago gets D'Anthony Melton, GP2 is apparently at the center of all my trades, and a second rounder in the next few years. So, it's not everything. And Vooch only gets $20 million a year for both this year and next year. So his hit isn't terrible. For people who are kind of unfamiliar with Vucevic, he really built his reputation in Orlando and then went to Chicago as part of that big, bright new lineup that never got a chance because Lonzo got hurt. And now that team is dying on the vine. They're trying to get rid of Levine. I think Vooch is readily available, and he could come in and shoot threes for us, and rebound. So resetting it. Melton, GP2, second rounder. Warriors get Vooch. Why don't we start with Wes this time? Wes, trade 3. I don't mind this one as much, but I also might be the last person who believes Vucevic might have another couple good years in him. His shooting and passing would be helpful. Again, Melton might be the best player in the deal, but as a consolation trade, you could do worse. This one, Maxime, sleepless night, I might say yes. I don't know if I wait till February. I'd be worried that there's other trades. I'd sleepless night. They'd offer to me, let me get back to you. And then if I heard some rumors, Sacramento's talking about Vucevic, like something else was going on from there. Would I call him back pretty quickly? Let's develop this. Yes, I would. So it's not a hard yes. And if I had runway, I'd take it. I wouldn't make it until I thought other suitors were out there, but shit, right. You've got my attention.
Yeah, this is, I think, more getting into the territory of, like you said, sleepless night, something that I might be considering if stuff is not going well come February. But you're also trading a 26-year-old Melton for a 33-year-old Vucevic. I don't love that, and I just made an argument about a consolidation of assets into salaries. It's the same thing that applies here. So, yes, we're all talking about wanting to be bigger bodied overall, but also Vucevic is still just 6'10". I'm not super convinced on betting older over younger, but you just said we let Wes give Melton his flowers. It seems like Kerr is also very, very high on Melton. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. And this is certainly not a trade that the Warriors can make because of whatever CBA factors until December. But in that window, I would be like, let's wait and see a little bit more what this guy can do for us before we start talking about shipping him out.
Between now and about January, this is almost a tryout to see who this team is.
Right.
Are we close? Can you see it? Can you see the outline of a championship team? Do they just need a shooting center? Well, fuck, there you go. We know which direction to go. Are they super far out? Are we nowhere remotely close, and bringing in another guy whose contract is going to go for a while and it doesn't make sense? Well, then no, of course you don't. You keep your finger off that trade button and you venture into an offseason where you have a ton of roster flexibility. So I guess we see how the thing plays, and then you make a smart decision. And to their credit, it looks like the Warriors are doing exactly that. Although I forgot to add something that I liked out of the preseason, that we avoided Paul George. He hyperextended his knee during warmups the other day, non-contact injury. Sounds like he's not going to miss time. It sounds like he'll probably be back for the opener. But a non-contact injury for a player you just gave big money to, that's the exact kind of shit you do not want to be talking about, And so, missed it. Thank goodness. Another thing to like here.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of the pictures, I mean, he definitely contorted his body in strange ways, but I'm just so out on drama. It feels so good to be a non-drama filled team. Like, yeah, good luck out there in Philadelphia.
Final prediction. How many wins, man? We've done this a couple times. There's no more preseason, so this one will stick. Matty Stats, go ahead and update any previous answers we've given to whatever we say here. What do you got?
I'm still putting it at about 44.
48. I'm sticking with my 48.
Let's go.
Let's see. We'll see how this thing plays out. All right. Appreciate you guys. We're hoping to go to a 2-time a week schedule when the Warriors games actually matter. We promised that before. I think it's going to happen this time. Maxine, what do you like? You feeling good about it? Prediction. How in by January 31st, how many shows a week are we doing?
All right, Matty Stats, book it. 2 a week, baby. We're still going strong.
Let's go. Let's go. I am less positive, but I'll book it too. Fuck it. Let's go. I'm in as well. 2 times a week. Absolutely. Call us on that, ladies and gentlemen. If we don't keep it up, make sure to send us an email letting us know that we were humongous wrong. Also, if you would like to send us an email, let us know we did a good job, bad job, any job, you can shoot that email to
huddle@warriorshuddle.com.
We're opening up social media sites at fuck DeAndre Aiden, and Aiden is a pariah on just social media sites everywhere. So take a look. You'll find us there. With that in mind, go Warriors. Hopefully we'll see you twice next week.